Wasn't that beautiful? Amen. Thank you, ladies. That was wonderful. Margaret and Roselia. All right, I have a few announcements today, not a whole bunch of them, but I do have a few. Number one is October 3rd. That's not this Sunday, but next Sunday, men's breakfast. I'd like to invite all the men there. A couple extra have to come because I'm not going to be there. So I help cook, so a couple extra have to come. And if you come at 7 o'clock, you'll enjoy the fellowship and the ability to help cook. So come at 7 o'clock, and then we serve at 8 o'clock. All right, and the women's breakfast is the following Sunday at 10 o'clock, and they're going to have theirs in the fellowship center as well this time. So women of the church, come on the 10th and enjoy some fellowship time and a breakfast meal. As you notice in our bulletin, it's getting to be Follow the Star time, and for those of you who don't know what Follow the Star is a live nativity scene that we have put it on for 18 years over in the campground, the Gladstone Park campground on Oatfield Road. I'd like to invite all of you there. If they allow us to do it because of COVID, we're going to do it this year. Last year we had to skip it. So anyway, a couple more announcements. Wally would like to come up and talk about some things. There's been some things going on that he needs to make us aware of.
I think I'll take that off. I hope nobody here is the one that's the guilty party. This last week we've had...
Don't be accusing people. Don't be accusing people.
Well, I want to be careful what I say, you know.
Yeah.
This last week we had 2 false alarms again. And the problem with that is a lot of times the alarm company will call me and say the alarm's been set off and I can cancel the police coming out. If I don't cancel the police coming out, it costs us $50. And I've at least 20 years doing this and never had to pay the $50. But in the last week, we've had 4 total, or last month, we've had 4 total false alarms. And I was able to talk them out of one of them, so I haven't had to pay any money. But nonetheless, we need to have you call me if you set off the alarm. I don't care if you cancel it or anything. Call me. There's a plaque right beside the keypad. Call me. Just let me know. I'll be real nice. I'll be very kind. But I don't want the police to come. And I don't want it to cost the church any money. So please do that if you would. Thank you.
Oh, and also don't be alarmed by the beep you hear when you walk down the hallway. The motion sensor, when it detects you walking in the hallway, it sends a chime to the keypad. So don't be alarmed about that. Once the alarm is safe and you have a green light and it says disarmed, it's just going to make a noise. So don't be alarmed by that. But make sure you look at it when you come in and make sure that it's on. Follow the Star, I started to, yes. I was announcing that we're having it, probably, and I'm also going to announce that we are sort of starting construction. We're gonna have a group of people over at the big trailer this weekend at 8:30, according to the bulletin. And so anybody who wants to come and help, there's plenty of stuff to do. We're also going to be working on the angel loft tomorrow. So come and enjoy the fellowship of helping out. And also, we need actors. So if you have an acting bone that needs to be exercised, come and see me or Pastor Nate or Wally or Pastor Paul if you know him. Just about anybody in the church has participated and they can connect you. But we have lots of roles we need to get filled because we've had a year off. So we're looking for actors. So, and it's not difficult acting. Some of it is just walking around looking like you belong in the wrong sanctuary. So it's all good and it's all fun. It's a wonderful time. It's a wonderful time of fellowship, and it's a wonderful time of witnessing to the people of Gladstone. We put this on as a witnessing effort for the city of Gladstone, and that's what we're here for, right? That's what we're here for. Okay. There's very little else on here, but Connie has a little bit to say. We postponed our community outreach last week because of the pouring down rain.
Yes, that beautiful rain that we had last week, we weren't able to go out. But I was just wondering if there are any that would be interested or available to go out and clean up the parks tomorrow. So I don't know if you could either give me a show of hands or come and talk to me afterwards. If we have enough that are interested in going out, we'll do it. If we don't, we'll just wait till next month.
Hands? 9:30 to noon. I see one reluctant hand.
So just come and
There's a
talk.
couple. All right?
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
So we'll do it if we can get some people to come. Please come. We want to show our community that we're interested in the community and want to help out the community. And there's one other thing. I forgot to welcome our guests online today. Welcome our guests online. And those of you who do watch it online, please like our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, or what is it called? Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It gives us more flexibility with what we can do with those sites. So, with that, it is time for our call to worship. And I'd like you to read it along with me, if you would. All the earth shall worship you and sing praises to you. They shall sing praises to your name, Selah. Come and see the works of God. He is awesome in his doing toward the sons of men. Psalm 66, 4 and 5. Thank you. And with that, let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for all that you do for us. We thank you for this wonderful Sabbath day, a time to come apart, and spend a little extra time with you without the distractions of this world. Father, we praise you for setting aside this day. We praise you because you set it aside for us. You set it aside for us to come and rest with you. That means be secure in the knowledge that we are with you and that you are with us. That should give us peace every day, but especially today. Father, we thank you for this Sabbath day. We thank you that we can spend time with you without all the distractions. Father, we ask that you would be with those in our church family and those that we know of that are hurting at this time. Some that are hurting because of loss of loved ones, and some that are recovering from COVID and other things. There's so much sickness around now, Father, and it's touched our church family as well. So, Father, we ask that you would put your healing hand upon those that are hurting and those that are recovering. Father, we ask that you would be with Pastor Nate today as he brings us a message about your power. Power. You have all the power, Father, and you share it with your children, and you share the love with your children. So we ask that you would be with us. Your Holy Spirit would fill this room today and give us all the power to see you. And we ask these things in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Good morning and happy Sabbath to each of you. Even with masks on, you can still talk. Please. I look out and I'm thinking, are the saints dead or just sleeping? It's a beautiful Sabbath day, and it's a special Sabbath day. Why is that? We're practicing how Jesus' blood and body was broken upon and spilt at the cross. It's an amazing thing. He covers all of our sins. Our offering today is for local church advancement. And it really goes more to our young people. I realize this is a ways back, but in 2017, the Hurricane Harvey hit Houston and destroyed so many houses there. And so Adventist high schools and colleges got the idea, why don't we do something about it? And I believe PAA was one of those that went down and worked. In one particular school, they found out about a home that had been flooded way up. So they concentrated one day. They took all the sheetrock, all the insulation, all the flooring, anything that had all the furniture, everything was stripped down to bare studs. One day, so those people could start to rebuild. That's what our kids do. We can be really proud of that, can't we? That impact will last forever on their lives, that they were able to go and help people in need. So remember that when you give, that some of these things seem so simple, so mundane, but yet it changes young people's lives. Let's pray. Father, thank you for your incredible blessings. I thank you for your love and watch care over us. We thank you for this special Sabbath. We ask you now to bless these offerings. Help that they will be used to your name's honor and glory. In the precious name of Jesus, amen. Now it is time for the children's story. If the kids want to come up. And Lewis is going to have our story this morning. I'm going to be using it.
Doctor.
Let's see here. Yep, you're on.
Okay, good. She looks pretty happy, doesn't she? She's giving me something there. Do you see that? That's the witch doctor, and she's giving me something there. See that? And this is what she gave me. When she was a witch doctor, she used to do some almost miracle things, but she didn't pray to Jesus. Guess to whom she prayed? To an evil spirit. And so when she wanted something special done, this is what she would do. She would take this and she would go like this. And she would babble, 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 and babble, babble, babble. And then she would take something else out of her special bag. Whoop. And she would go like this. And she was quite successful because she was so successful that she would have other witch doctors doing what she was doing. But one day, her little girl, about 10 years old, got very sick. And so she did her thing, like she always did. And she expected this evil spirit to heal her daughter. But guess what? The daughter got sicker and sicker and sicker. And the witch doctor thought she's going to die. And someone said to her, there is a person that lives up the hill. He worships a greater God than you know of. Maybe he could come down and pray, and maybe your girl will be healed. And so she said, I guess I'll go. So she went to the missionary that was there, and she said, please come and pray for my daughter, because I understand that you have a God that's greater than my God. And so the missionary came down, and guess what? He prayed to Jesus, and guess what? Jesus answered the prayer of the missionary, and this girl got all better. And the witch doctor said to the missionary, I want to study and become like you and worship the true God. And so she gave this to me, and she said, this will be a token of my love for Jesus, and I'll not need it anymore. So guess what? She became such a beautiful witness for Jesus. She went to these other witch doctors, and guess what? She helped one witch doctor become a follower of Jesus. She went to another witch doctor, and he became a follower of Jesus. And quite a number of these witch doctors, they all became followers of Jesus because this lady loved Jesus so much. And guess what? This witch doctor became a missionary to America. She came to our country, and for 1 month, our missionary that was out there, Bill, help me. Bill Smith. Bill Smith took this missionary witch doctor around America for 1 month, and she came on radio programs, television programs, and she told the people of America how much Jesus loved her. And so she became a missionary for the people of America as well. So guess what? When I had a call to go to the Far East, my family was about, our oldest boy was about as old as, how old are you? 10. I think he was 11. And guess what? That missionary boy is with us today. I'd like him to stand up. Steve? He was the missionary boy about as old as you. And he had 3 younger brothers. And guess what? We all went to Singapore as missionaries, and we loved being witnesses for Jesus and telling everyone of his love. And so, guess what? We can be missionaries. We don't have to go to the Far East or to some mission field. We can be missionaries for Jesus right where we are. How can we be missionaries for Jesus where we are? by being kind, being loving, helping our brothers and our sisters, helping mummies and daddies, helping our friends and schoolmates. That's how we can be kind and loving and spread and be missionaries for Jesus. So I want all of you to remember that you are special. Jesus loves you with all his heart. And when you need him, especially, remember him in prayer. But always touch base with Jesus every day because he's your best friend. Now, I brought something very special for each of you from Singapore. And that's because Jesus loves you and he creates beautiful things. And so I want you to come by and you can take this gift from Singapore, and this will be a reminder that Jesus loves you and he wants you to be a missionary where you are. Okay, you can come by now and take one.
Thank you, Louis, for that wonderful story of Jesus' love. The song I'm going to share with you today is also about Jesus' love for us. I'll be playing the introduction and then singing the 2 verses, and I'll be putting the words up here for you to follow along with. Start it over. You have to hit the back arrow. There we go. just to think that God loves me. There's the wonder of harvest in springtime, the sky, the stars, the sun, but the wonder of wonders that thrills my soul is the wonder that's only begun. Oh, the wonder of it all, the wonder of it all, just to think that God loves me. Oh, the wonder of it all, the wonder of it all, just to think that God loves me.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's good to see you all. Just a couple of things as we get started with the message this morning. First of all, for the kids, we have a word of the day, and we always have a word of the day when I'm speaking, and the kids can tally up how many times I say the word of the day, and then go and meet Suzette over at the Fellowship Center and get a prize. Now, Josie is going to be tallying, and you want to be listening up for how many times I say the word power. That's the word of the day. Power. So that's 2. Okay? Secondly, we have a whole bunch of alumni visiting us today from Far Eastern Academy, which is in Singapore. And there's an alumni event this week, and they represent hundreds of years of mission work. And I'm wondering if you're an FEA, Far Eastern Academy alumni, would you just raise your hand right now so we could acknowledge you? Welcome. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. They're going to be enjoying a potluck together today, and I understand that there's an event tomorrow, I think, as well. Do I have that right? I know Janice is around here somewhere. But anyway, welcome to you, FEA graduates and missionary families. Now, I want to thank those of you who were praying for me over the past week. I went on a journey all the way over to Iowa and back by myself in my minivan. And I put a platform in the back, took all the seats out, put a twin bed on there, and camped out of my van all the way to Iowa and back. And the reason I went over to Iowa is to have the graveside service to bury my mom. She also was someone who attended FEA over the years. And there's something about burying a loved one which gives you perspective. And I know for some of you that's something very fresh in your mind and heart. But it makes you think about what really matters in life. Things like family, things like love, and not letting petty squabbles get the best of us. And it was a really, really good and healthy thing. I met my aunts over there, her sisters. They came from different areas in the States. Got to see the farm where my grandmother was born and raised, and my mom is buried there right next to her mom in the Crown Hill Cemetery in Ruthven. Now, on the road trip there and back, first of all, I was excited to go, and I loved it. I was excited to go because I am an introvert. I've shared this with you, which means that I get re-energized by having some alone time, but I severely underestimated my need for social interaction. And so fortunately, we live in a day and an age where we can get on and video chat, and was able to do that daily with my family. And that was great. And sometimes even on the road, just had the video going, and we would talk as though they were in the van with me. It was really, really good. But one of the things that I loved about this trip was seeing all of the natural beauty throughout the United States. I got to go to a handful of national parks and monuments, one of which was Yellowstone. It was fantastic. Went to a place called Devil's Tower, which was a good thing. It was a nice place, a monument in Wyoming. Went to Mount Rushmore, and on the way back, I was able to go to the Badlands and the Tetons. And in the Badlands, it was 100 degrees, and the next day in the Tetons, it was 25 degrees. So I got to see a diversity of United States landscape, and it made me think that we are not so far apart in the United States, that it's much smaller than we think. Though it's big and beautiful, we are closer than we think. And if there's anything that makes America truly wonderful, part of it is the national parks that we have. And in one of the gift shops, I ended up picking up a national parks book, and I've started going through that, the history of national parks. And one of the first national parks we created in the United States was in Niagara Falls. How many of you have been to Niagara Falls? Okay, I'm a little bit jealous because I haven't been yet. I'm becoming a national parks junkie. I love to travel and see all these natural wonders. But with Niagara Falls, it was interesting because as there was a tourist draw to that area, that also meant commerce and industry. And there was a concern that the commercial components of the businesses and the tourism of that area would take over the natural beauty there. Now, I don't know exactly what it's like today, but they decided that they needed to preserve that area as much as possible, both on the United States side and the Canada side, so that we can, as people in this world, go and see these natural wonders. And of course, there are many monuments and national parks throughout the United States. But it just goes to show with the Niagara Falls incident that human nature is such that we, if left to our own devices, will exploit things, will do whatever we want to the natural world around us, even if it means destroying its beauty. Now, of course, in the very beginning, God gave rule or dominion to humanity. And really that word rule there has to do with being good stewards of the earth. And I think the national park system and preserving those areas is a good stewardship of the earth that we have here. That way we can go and enjoy these places. But over time, of course, with human nature being what it is, we have become very hurtful and oppressive to one another, and will exploit the natural beauty around us for commercial gain, and that's just human nature. All this made me think quite a bit about the state of things in this world. And I just wonder what it would be like if everybody had the opportunity to just come together in a natural setting and really appreciate God's wonders and appreciate one another. And I think two things that truly make America really great are the natural beauties and are the people around us. Now, over the course of the past couple of years, there's been a lot that has led to division in the United States, led to us being suspicious of one another, or thinking about how we can control one another, right? Or have power over one another. But as I read my Bible, I don't know if you see it in yours, especially in the New Testament, I see that Jesus is not so concerned with controlling people, with having power over people, with oppressing people. He is concerned with serving people, loving people, looking out for one another, building connection, building relationships. Do you see that in the Gospels? Jesus is not about ruling over people, but rather serving under people. And if anybody had the ability to rule over, it was Jesus. Jesus in Matthew chapter 20, he says something that many of us have heard before, but it's good to reflect on as we're about to take communion together. Communion is a time where we reflect on the sacrifice of Jesus, what he has done for every single one of us in giving up his own life so that we could have eternal life. Jesus, in doing so, came down to serve under us, to lift us up. Rather than to smite us and punish us for where we've gone wrong, he has blessed us through what he has done for us. But Jesus in Matthew chapter 20, in verse 25, it says, Jesus calls his disciples to himself. And he says, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them. Now, these words about lording over and exercising authority, it's a little bit different than what Genesis brings out in having dominion over the earth and over the other creatures. In Genesis, it's more about stewardship, but Jesus here is talking about power over and control over the people around us. And he's saying that the Gentiles, those who are not a part of God's people at that time, they're not a part of the kingdom of heaven, are all about ruling over one another. But he says in verse 26, it shall not be so among you. But whoever would be great among you must be your servant. And whoever would be first among you must be your slave, even as the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and give his life a ransom for many. When we eat the bread this morning, representing the body of Jesus, his life, when we drink the juice, the wine which represents the blood he shed, what we are doing is we are saying to God today, Lord, I want to be in alignment with your kingdom. I trust and believe in what Jesus has done for me. And I want to live my life in harmony with the kingdom of heaven and not the kingdoms of this world. The kingdoms of this world rule typically with the sword. Thank you, Judah, for letting me borrow your sword this morning. And did you know at one point there was even a time when the powers of a specific area were blended with Christianity? And a man by the name of Charlemagne, I believe it was, he said to the people he was conquesting, he said, either you're going to be baptized or you're going to die. You're going to face the sword. Do I have that right, Dwight Charlemagne? And I think Constantine did a little bit of that too. But that is so contrary to the kingdom of God. Jesus came to establish a power under kingdom, not a power over kingdom, which is second nature to us as humans. Jesus replaces the sword. Jesus, when his disciples joined him in the upper room for the Passover meal, it wasn't like Jesus was some mafia boss and saying, okay, Pete, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go out and we're going to cut the ear off the high priest's servant. We're going to fight against them now. He's not saying that. But what Jesus does is he replaces the sword with a towel. And he stoops and he serves and he washes the feet of his disciples. Did you know that one of his enemies was there eating with them? Judas, who would go out and betray him, was there. And still Jesus stooped and washed the feet of Judas. Jesus is all about establishing the power under kingdom of heaven, not the power over kingdom of the world. In fact, the disciples were expecting, okay, any minute now, he's going to take up the sword, he's going to smite these enemies, he's going to smite the Romans. It's going to be great, and we want to be a part of this. But that's not the way of the kingdom of heaven, according to Jesus. It's interesting how human nature is to fight and want control over one another. But Jesus, in Matthew chapter 5, he says, "You have heard that it was said, 'You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy.' But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust." Pray for our enemies. Love our enemies. This is so backwards to the kingdoms of this world and to the human condition. So backwards that Jesus exemplifies this in his death. Romans 5:8 says, but God shows his love for us in that while we were still sinners, enemies of God, Christ died for us. At this time, I want to invite Bob and Dwight to join me up front. And as we take communion today, the Lord's Supper, I want to invite you to make this choice today, to accept Jesus, but not only Jesus as the Son of God, not only Jesus as Lord, but Jesus as our servant, the one who stooped low and served under and is about the power under kingdom rather than the power over type of kingdom. For communion time today, we are going to dismiss row by row, and we're going to come along the outside and in, and you'll come up and grab a bread and a juice. We also want to make sure that we're serving everybody, so we have gluten-free bread as well. If you don't need gluten-free bread, don't take the gluten-free bread, although I see that we do have a lot of gluten-free bread, so I guess the options are open. But you'll come along the outside and then find your seats by going through the middle. If you're in the alcoves, come along the outside and then go down the middle and back out and up to the alcoves. That way we're not clashing with one another and anybody's tempted to take up the sword. So we're going to look out for one another as we come and take communion. But in doing so, I just want to reflect one more time on what Jesus does with his disciples. Rather than arming them with weapons of this world, he arms them with humility and perspective and love by reminding them at the Last Supper that Jesus came to serve under and not lord over others. And what's beautiful is that the Bible says that in doing so, he has received the name that is above every name and exalted above all because he humbled himself so. So at this point, we're going to be seated, and we'll dismiss at this time for you to come up from the outside and take the bread and then return to your seats if you are not able-bodied. I'm not saying if you just don't want to, but if you're not able-bodied, we have Dean is going to come and bring a tray to you if you're unable to make your way forward this morning. So with that, I think we're going to have a little bit of music, reflective music, and please just quietly come up and grab the emblems, and don't eat or drink until we pray together for this communion service. You are dismissed to do so. today, my hope and prayer is that for each one of us, that we would be blessed in knowing what God has done for us in Jesus. And that even though we slip up, not, can you hear me? Could you hear what I was saying in the back there? Okay. The camera probably didn't, but. Well, I was just saying that Jesus meets us at the table wherever we're at. And though we may slip up and fail and fall, he still calls us back to communion with him. I want to invite Bob to pray over the bread, and then I'm going to read some words and we'll take the bread.
Precious Heavenly Father, we come before you in absolute awe that you were willing to be separated from your Son. Who am I? I'm worthy of nothing. And yet the name above all names was willing to come here. By example, show us how we should live. To be a servant. And how he was willing to die on a cruel, cruel cross. The most excruciating pain known to man. And he was willing to do that to save me and you. And I'm afraid I don't appreciate it as much as I should. The God of the universe, the Creator, wants me as his child. He wants me and you. What an incredible thing. Thank you, precious Jesus. Just thank you, precious, precious Jesus, for your willingness to come to save your children. In Jesus' precious name, amen.
In 1 Corinthians 11, Paul shares about the Lord's Supper. And he says, I received from the Lord what I also delivered to you, that the Lord Jesus, on the night when he was betrayed, he took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and said, this is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me. Let's eat now the bread and remember what he's done for us. Lord, this morning we thank you for Jesus. We know that Jesus could have asked for legions of angels to come and fight for him, to deliver him from the cross. But instead, he allowed the sword, the powers of this world, to come down upon him, showing forever the difference between worldly power and the power under nature of the kingdom of heaven. Thank you for serving us, Lord, so that we can be with you forever and find life now. We love you and praise you and pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Before taking the juice representing the blood of Jesus, Dwight, would you pray for us?
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this, not only a Sabbath day, but a high Sabbath day. Lord, as we contemplate the juice which represents your blood that you so freely shared with us on the cross, Lord, I ask that you would send your Spirit, that you would open our minds, that you would open our hearts, that we might more fully and deeply understand what it was that you accomplished for us at the cross. I also ask, Lord, that you would give us a desire to study, to understand, to renew our commitment to you and your service. In your name, amen.
Amen. Continuing in 1 Corinthians, Paul says, in the same way also he took the cup after supper, saying, this cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this as often as you drink it in remembrance of me. Let's drink now in remembrance. Lord in heaven, how immeasurably worthy you are of our worship and praise. For you who saw our condition and the condition of this world did not come to spill blood, but you came to give your own blood, so that we would have life in connection with you, with the new covenant. Lord, this morning we thank you for the sacrifice of Jesus. We thank you that you have served under us to lift us up. And we pray that in light of all of this, that you would help us to be true ambassadors of your kingdom in how we love and serve those around us. Lord, I can't help but wonder what it would be like if our attitudes reflected your kingdom, that we weren't so quick to take up the sword, whether it be literally or whether it be with the way that we speak and treat others, but instead if we took up the towel and served and loved, knowing that that is what has the power to save, the power to transform. Thank you for the gospel, the life, the death, and the resurrection of Jesus. And help us to live out that gospel each and every day. We love you, we praise you, we give you all the glory, and we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. 1 Corinthians 11, this section closes out and says, for as often as you eat this bread and drink the cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes. By faith, we've been transformed this morning. Not because of some magical ritual, but because we have chosen to accept what Jesus has given to us. And in so being transformed, it's my hope and prayer that we would proclaim Jesus until he comes in word and in deed. So God bless you, my friends. Happy Sabbath to you. And may God be with you today and this week. And may he use you to further his kingdom in this world. Amen and God bless.